everyone, so in a special video for Final Fantasy XIV, I will be doing the Heavensturn event, A Tale of Mice and Mochi, which started yesterday, Tuesday, December 31st, 2019, and continues on until Tuesday, January 14th, 2020. And it starts in Limsolo Mensa in the upper decks, and the only requirement is level 15. And so I'll go ahead and start the quest by going over here. And we can say, see Nezumi Bugo, however you say it. And so we have a couple of prizes, or rewards this time around, initially from the quest. And if I just zoom in here, you can see it is this. And if you don't happen to like the rat thing, you can hide that. Anyway, so there is a white one and a blue one. And I actually like both of them. And if you're worried about not being able to get either of them, because you can only select one with this initial quest, the vendor over here, who we can't speak to at the current moment, will have the other one available as well. And I'll go into details of that in a moment. The Nezumi Bugo requires assistance in overcoming cultural barriers. Ah, but you have the air of someone who has spent time abroad. Are you perhaps an adventurer, and one who practiced in acquainting yourself with various cultures? I come from the Far East, you see, where we celebrate Heavensturn just as the people of Eorzea do. Rather than a god like your 12, we choose an animal to represent the coming year. This year belongs to the foremost beast among them, the rat. And celebration of the rat's glory must not be confined to far eastern shores. Thus did I don a festive kabuto in the name of sharing our customs with all the world. I was confident that I could easily surpass my dull-witted compatriots, those who have ventured to these foreign lands representing inferior beasts in years past. In this task, alas, all has not gone to plan. As the rat is considered a symbol of plenty and harbinger of fortune in my homeland, I thought to grace the people of Eorzea with the opportunity to pound mochi and make advent cakes alongside these lofty creatures. Alas, the people of Eorzea seem loath to touch tubes of mochi lousy with rats, nor eat their laboriously prepared cakes. This can likely be attributed to cultural differences, as I mentioned previously. The trouble with cultural bias is, of course, that people often do not recognize it within themselves, let alone make an effort to overcome it on their own. No, if they are to ever understand the rat's superiority, I must do the work of convincing them. Unfortunately, I am uncertain as to what manner of local superstitions about rats has given rise to this aversion. It's nothing to do with a superstition. And without that knowledge, I have no means of assuaging their discomfort. Might I impose upon you to speak with the townspeople here on my behalf? I am afraid they will not share their honest thoughts with me, for fear of causing offense. You have my thanks. Perhaps you might begin with that elderly woman over there. She refused my invitation to join the festivities earlier. Unsurprising, perhaps, as the elderly are often set in their ways. I think it's more to do with common knowledge of what rats tend to carry. And so we need to head over here to Imani. Yeah? Imania? This lady? I've spent the better part of my life trying to keep rats out of the grain stores. I can't imagine why I'd want them touching my food. Filthy creatures. And in any case, the idea of animals cooking is ludicrous. Even if there were, say, a particularly intelligent dog, it would still have no hands. Anyway, this all seems fairly obvious. Ask anyone. They'll tell you the same. And so I need to head over here and speak with a person I can't see the name of. Clindrail, a person of authority. Balderdash, let a rat in your pantry and it'll eat you out of house and home. Not cook you dinner. Not that you'd want it to, unless you think pestilence is the finest spice. Only a rodent will do for your purposes, however. You might try something like a rat, or rather more sentient. Maybe that's also a man, if you catch my drift. Oh, a quicurn. Quite. They look like rats, squeak like rats, chew through your unattended grain sacks like rats, but are not, in fact, rats. They can even use cutlery. I doubt you'll find anyone here willing to eat food prepared by rats, but quicurn are another story. At least with them, you can be reasonably certain that the rice wasn't pounded with tiny plague-ridden feet. And there's one right over there. Nenaron, I think his name was. And so, going back over here, we need to speak with Nenaroon, who is down the stairs over here. Nenaroon. You have a tale of Heavensturn to tell? Easterners say rats bring fortunate fortunes. Culture difference is different indeed. Limsons think rats are dirty because rats eat anything, even though eating is normal reaction to edible things. We also eat edible things, so often offended by offensive comparison to rats. Nenaroon thinks Quaikern and land where rats thought to bring fortune very fortunate. Oh, striking idea strike me. Nenaroon help Ratman make rats popular with the Limson populace, and Quaikern gain favor by favorable comparison. Good. Then Nenaroon follow you as follower to help you as helper. We are helping. And all through this, all I can think of is the anime Fruits Basket, or manga if you will. We need the cat. I think we had the cat at some point. Anyway, Nazumi Byogo. As I kind of butchered that name, but... You have returned and see you have a majestic rodent in your company. This must be a sign that my fortunes are improving as we speak. Ah, so the Eorzean culture rats are considered unclean. That does explain the reactions. That's less to do with culture and more to do with health. But this is also Final Fantasy, so you never know. Yes, rats and rat-like Quaikern both. Too many hasten to hasty judgments. Nenaroon think I'd better to better reputation of rats and Quaikern at the same time. Propose we work together. A marvelous idea, as I would expect from one of such furry features and elongated snout. With our wiles combined, we ought to be able to overcome the people's preconceptions, culture ingrained or no. And bring fortunes to all. Byogo, we have a problem. What? Another one? Has something gone wrong with the Mochi now? Unfortunately so. As you know, I've been hard at work preparing the Mochi, pounding rice into an amorphous mass, and all was going to plan, or so it seemed, until the Mochi began to jiggle on its own. I'm afraid that it's alive! What? Yes, I quite understand your surprise, but we have no time for it. I know not whether this issue arose because I used the miraculous yet unpredictable waters of Tenzan Soul Spring in the preparation. It seemed a good idea at the time, or if it's simply down to the peculiar aether in this foreign land. But in any case, we must act. I propose that we take up arms and cut the Mochi into advent cakes before its newfound sentience drives it to get any ideas. What say you, my friend? You have proven yourself to be inflappable, I don't know, in the face of danger, even if that of a peculiar nature. Leave it to me. Nenaroon will cut cuttings for Mochi too. Ratman's event too important to have cut short. I'm gladdened to hear it. Good people of Eorzea, please join us at the Zephyr Drift at your earliest convenience. I myself shall head there post-haste, lest the Mochi wander off. The event has been troublesome indeed, but we shall persevere. We cannot let the year of the rat arrive without proper welcome. And so we need to head to Middle Lanosa, and you could teleport there, or you can just travel along here, and I've honestly just been traveling along this way, because it's just as fast, in my opinion. So that's the way I'm going to go. Which is just leaving right out over here. So if you've surmised from previous years, and I have a mix of the... Well, let's just change that. So you go with the saintly barding that we just had with the previous event. Anyways, so in previous years, Heavensturn has had fates, and it is similar with this one as well, although it is slightly different with It's Alive! And hopefully once we get there, it'll either have already started, so we can just tag along with it, or it'll be about to start. And it turns out it has not started, but we will wait for it here. And here's the start of the event, and you can see the, and by the event I meant the fate, the giant Mochi, who looks like a Grimmer or a Mach, in my opinion. And if you forget, you need to sync, because it is a level 5. And there's quite a few AOs, and if you're a higher level, it doesn't really matter. But even as a tank, when I was tanking this, it does add up after a while. So the AO is pretty easy to avoid. And there's also going to be ads with this, so the Advent Mochi here. And they too count as the part of the fate, so you'll want to kill them as well. And don't forget, you have basically no skills while you're fighting. On the plus side, that also means more people can participate in the fate. And I'm not entirely sure how much damage you're required to do in the fate. But I found that every single time that I did it, I was given 10 of the rewards from it, and I'll show that once the fate is done. And there we go, it looks like we got all of them. And you see here the cut Mochi, a perfectly proportional rice cake, deftly cleaved from a mass of sentient Mochi, and so on and so forth. And now we need to head back to Limsa. And normally I've just been riding my chocobo back, but I will just teleport back to Limsa. Oh, that reminds me. There's these guys here, which you may have seen. Apparently had the heavy cast on them. But anyway, yeah, that's it there. I forgot about that. Hopefully you saw that in the background. So back to Limsa, and then teleporting to the Act Castle Aetheryte Shard. Nezumi Bugo. The size, the shape. This is truly magnificent work. You are a rat among men, not to be sure. Now Limsons can taste the Mochi, and sea rats bring fortunate fortunes after all. No doubt they would. The issue remains, however, how to entice them to taste it to begin with. Ho ho! A Far Eastern Virgo, here for Heavensturn, are ya? Just so, good sir. I'm the Nezumi Byogo, come bearing the traditional Heavensturn advent cakes. How might I help you? Allow me to introduce myself. Lingseth, head of the Culinarians Guild and proprietor of Bismarck Sides. I've got a solid sense of smell, comes with the territory, and I caught a whiff of the most enticing aroma emanating from hereabouts. I reckon it's coming from them advent cakes you mentioned. Try one, try one. These advent cakes freshly cut by Quakern and rats. An adventurer, neither Quakern or rat. So you're one of the chefs what made these. Remarkable. Didn't know there were Quakern culinarians. Oh, Nanaru no chef, only helper, helping with cuts. Give yourself some credit. Takes a lot to prepare a dish, and if you put in the work to make these, you're qualified to call yourself assistant culinarian at the least. Just as good as it smells. Fascinating texture, really. Chewy, but not in a bad way. The flavor is subtle and just a bit sweet. I can tell you used right fine rice. Pure water, too. There's something else, though. Such as gives it this perfect consistency. A special technique or somewhat? As you say, we use the finest ingredients from our homeland. The techniques involved are traditional as well. However, I dare say that they are not the special something which you detect. For that, good sir, is passion! The devotion of myriad rats who made the arduous journey from the far east to bring fortune to your fair land. The fervent hopes of Nenarune who labors for the sake of his people. This random adventurer's zeal for violence all have combined to create these superlative advent cakes. Ha ha ha, passion is it? And I was something of that myself. Seems you've got a lot of common, despite coming from different places. It just so happens I've got an interview with the Arbor Herald later on. If it's alright, I'd like to mention your advent cakes. Let people know that they can get them during Heavensturn. Could be a good opportunity for cultural exchange and all that. The Arbor Herald? So many readers would read of our Mochi! And the public would have little excuse to eschew our advent cakes once a renowned culinarian has vouched for them. Yay! Yay! On behalf of Rats Everywhere, I thank you for your assistance, sir. And you as well, adventurer. Your service shall not be forgotten. I will personally ensure that the rats watch over you wherever you may go. You're very welcome. Bring on the rats. Very well. If you excuse us, we must go forth and prepare to bring our advent cakes to the masses, who shall soon doubtless be clamoring for a fair plague's worth of rats to descend on their city. Yay! Woo! And so you have the options, as I mentioned before, is the Crimson Nezumi Kabuto or the Cobalt Nezumi Kabuto. And I'm just gonna go for the blue one for the sake of going for the blue one. Just because it doesn't matter anyway. You can see the Moogle kite there, which is very cute. And of course, with most events, you get the achievement for completing it. And now we are able to talk to the vendor here. And you can see, because we have 10 here, we have enough for this. And as I read, the perfectly proportioned rice cake deftly cleaved from a massive sentient mochi, perhaps less separated from its host, it has become just another tasty dessert. Or perhaps it still retains some awareness, wishing desperately for a mouth with which to scream. Dun dun dun! Anyway, so you can trade that, and it also gives you enough for the house tabletop item, Heavensturn Bounty, a traditional Heaventurn's decoration meant to beckon fortune through its depiction of a traditional bumper crop of rice, traditionally infested by ice. That sounds lovely. And then you have your Zoni meal, food stuff, and then magicked prism. And because you got 10 from the fate, that's enough for exchanging one set of these and one set of these, so you effectively only need to do the fate once, which is convenient if you end up being later on and there's not many people around. Sure, we'll stand by these guys. Anyway, so you can see that there, and as I mentioned before, you can turn off the rat piece. So that is just the kabuto with the visor. If I open up the correct thing here, there you go. So the manually adjust visor there, and then remember that, you can see that's not isn't visible. No, it is. No, it isn't. No, it is. So on and so forth. Anyways, and that's the white one there. Then that's the blue one, as I showed before. And just to demonstrate this as well, I zoom up a little bit. You have the nice little Moogle thing there. I wasn't zoomed out far enough, so I'll show that again. Ta-da! Anyway, so you get 10 of the Heavensturn Mochi ball thingies from the fate itself, and that's enough for getting all these prizes. So you'll need to do that the once. And so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching!